Let me ask you something you probably haven't thought about this week. Have your legs felt different lately? Maybe a little stiffer in the morning, a bit unsteady when you stand after sitting for too long? Here's something most people don't know. Once you pass 60, your body begins to quietly shed about 3% of its muscle mass every year, even if you're not sick, even if you're still moving. And the legs are where that loss shows up first. It starts small, difficulty with stairs, feeling like you're moving slower than before, but over time, it's not just your strength that fades, it's your confidence, your balance, and your freedom. But here's the good news. The body is still listening, and with the right kind of support, you can begin to feel a difference in as little as 12 hours. Not weeks, not months, 12 hours. Today, we're joined by someone who's lived this truth for decades. Dr. Kenji Yamato, Japan's oldest practicing physician, is here to guide us through the science behind age-related muscle loss, and, more importantly, how to slow it down, or even reverse it, through something as simple as what you eat. So, if you've ever wondered why your legs don't feel as strong, or if you're worried about losing mobility in the years ahead, this episode is for you. Because aging doesn't mean giving up strength. Sometimes it just means giving your body a new reason to rebuild it. Let's begin. So, what's really going on inside your legs? Why is it that within just a few months, or a few years, we suddenly find ourselves moving slower, climbing stairs with effort, or feeling off balance after sitting for too long? Is the body simply too old to bounce back? Or have we misunderstood how recovery really works? Here's the surprising truth. It often starts with your blood, not your muscle. Not with weakness, not with injury, but with a signal that's been dimmed. And to truly understand how strength returns, sometimes within just 12 hours, we need to look deeper into circulation and how it quietly sets the stage for everything that follows.
Let's get honest about something most people misunderstand. Yes, you can feel stronger within 12 hours, but no, that doesn't mean your body is magically rebuilding new muscle overnight. Real muscle growth takes days, sometimes weeks. So what's actually changing in such a short time? The answer isn't about the muscle itself, it's about the signal and how well your body is listening to it. As we age, our circulatory system doesn't perform like it used to. The blood vessels, especially in the lower body, begin to stiffen. The flow slows. Oxygen doesn't reach your legs efficiently. And when oxygen is low, your muscles feel sluggish, not because they're weak, but because they're starved. You've probably felt it, that heaviness in your thighs after a long sit, or the awkward stiffness in your calves during your first few steps in the morning. That's not always muscle loss. That's poor delivery, like having a car with a full tank, but the fuel lines are clogged. Now here's where it gets exciting. With the right nutrients and a little movement, you can restore that delivery quickly. Certain foods help relax the vessels, boost blood flow, and bring oxygen right where it's needed. The result? Muscles that were dormant start to wake up. Not rebuilt, but reactivated. Think of it like dimmed lights. The bulbs aren't broken, they're just not getting power. But flip the right switch, and suddenly the room lights up. The same thing can happen in your legs, within hours. And no, this isn't theory. Clinical research backs it up. In one study, older adults who consumed specific circulation-supporting nutrients after light activity reported better mobility, reduced tightness, and improved walking confidence, all within 12 hours. That's not magic. That's biology responding to intention. So here's the bigger truth. Your body wants to work. It's not lazy. It's just waiting for a signal that says, you're safe, you're supported, let's go. What sends that signal? A warm, nutrient-dense meal, a 5-minute stretch, even a 10-minute walk around the block, all simple, powerful acts that restore the line between your brain, your blood, and your legs. So if you've been feeling slower lately, don't assume it's just age. Sometimes it's just poor connection. And the good news is that connection can come back faster than you think. Let's explore how. So now that your body is listening again, now that blood flow is starting to return, oxygen is reaching places it hasn't in years, you might be wondering, what do I do next? And the answer doesn't come from the gym. Not from a machine, not even from a pill. It starts right in your kitchen. Because if recovery truly begins with reactivating circulation, then what you feed your body can become the first step toward healing. And there's one warm, nourishing remedy, simple, ancient, and quietly powerful, that both modern science and traditional medicine agree on: bone broth.
Let's talk about something surprisingly powerful, hidden in plain sight: bone broth. For most people, bone broth brings up memories of childhood, maybe something your grandmother made when you were sick, or a warm bowl you turned to on cold days. But what many don't realize is this humble liquid can be a potent recovery tool, especially as we age. You see, real bone broth, made slowly and with intention, is rich in compounds that directly support muscle repair, joint lubrication, and healthy blood flow. When bones are simmered for hours, they release collagen, glycine, proline, and essential minerals like magnesium and potassium. These nutrients aren't just buzzwords, they play real biological roles in how your body heals and maintains itself. Collagen, for example, is the scaffolding of connective tissue. Glycine helps reduce inflammation and promotes deeper sleep. Proline supports joint structure. Magnesium relaxes blood vessels and eases cramps. And potassium helps regulate muscle contractions and hydration. All of this from a simple bowl of broth. Recent studies are beginning to catch up with centuries of traditional wisdom. In one clinical trial, older adults who consumed collagen-rich bone broth after light physical activity experienced noticeable improvements in mobility, joint comfort, and even walking confidence, all within just 24 hours. Not because they grew new muscle overnight, but because their body was finally given what it needed to do its job. Here's what many people say after incorporating broth into their routine. My knees feel quieter. I get up from a chair with less effort. I don't feel as stiff in the mornings. That's not magic. That's blood flowing, joints moving, muscles responding. So when should you drink bone broth? Two key windows make a big difference. First, early in the morning, before inflammation builds up through the day. Second, after movement, even a light walk or some gentle stretches. At that moment, your tissues are more receptive. The body is open to repair. And you don't need a giant bowl. Just half a cup, sipped slowly, warm and clean, can signal the shift from survival mode to healing mode. This isn't about calories. It's not about eating more. It's about nourishment that whispers to your body, you're supported, you're safe, you can begin again. And even if you spent years feeling stiff, sore, or sluggish, the body still remembers how to heal if you give it what it needs. Sometimes that starts with something as simple as a spoonful of broth. So now we understand why bone broth works. It's not a trend, it's biology. Collagen, glycine, minerals, they all help the legs feel steadier, faster than most expect. But here's the next question. How do you actually use it in real life? Not everyone has time to slow cook bones all day. Not all store-bought versions are created equal. So in this next part, let's break it down. How to make bone broth right, how to choose it wisely, and most importantly, how to know it's actually helping your body heal.
So now you know the science, and you're ready to try. But how do you actually make bone broth work for your body? Let's start with the ingredients. Not all bones are created equal. For real results, you need real bones. Chicken feet, marrow bones, joint bones, these parts are packed with collagen, gelatin, minerals, and amino acids. That's the fuel your muscles and joints need, especially as we age. Now, here's the secret: time. Bone broth needs to be simmered low and slow, at least 12 hours, and ideally 18 to 24. Why? because that slow process pulls every bit of healing power from the bones. If you're making it at home, toss in a splash of apple cider vinegar to help draw out the nutrients. Add garlic, a bay leaf, maybe a strip of kombu seaweed for added minerals. It's simple, but not fast, and that's the point. What about store-bought broth? Be cautious. Most shelf-ready broths are rushed, overly salted, and stripped of the good stuff. Look for labels that say slow-simmered, pasture-raised, or grass-fed, and always check the ingredient list. No additives, no fake flavoring. Now let's talk about how to use it. You don't need a giant bowl. In fact, sometimes just half a cup is enough. Warm, not hot. Lightly seasoned, not salty. Sip it slowly. Treat it like nourishment, not just a drink. And when should you drink it? Timing matters. There are 2 golden windows. Morning, before inflammation builds from daily movement, and after exercise, when your muscles are open and ready to repair. Here's something beautiful. Your body will tell you when it's working, not in charts, not in words, but in sensation. The next morning, maybe you stand up from a chair more easily. Your knees don't hesitate. Your ankles feel more stable. You walk down the stairs with less caution. These small shifts are not imagined. They're your body responding. Bone broth isn't a miracle. It's not trendy, but it's one of the most ancient, accessible, and affordable tools for supporting recovery. Especially after 60, when healing slows and inflammation lingers, this warm, golden liquid can be the gentle nudge your body's been waiting for. All it takes is care, consistency, and a willingness to listen. Because sometimes the best recovery doesn't start with a pill. It starts with a pot, a few bones, and a quiet decision to show up for your body again. Now, if you're thinking bone broth sounds great, but what if I don't eat animal products, you're not alone. Many people today are moving toward plant-based lifestyles for health, ethical, or personal reasons. And the good news is, nature provides another deeply nourishing option, one that's been quietly supporting recovery and strength for centuries, especially across East Asia. It's not trendy or flashy, but it works. Let's turn now to a remarkable plant-based alternative that brings similar benefits to bone broth, while speaking to the body in a slightly different but equally powerful way.
Let's say you don't eat meat, or maybe bone broth just isn't your thing. That doesn't mean you're left out of the recovery conversation. In fact, one of the most powerful healing traditions in the world comes entirely from plants: fermented miso. Real, traditionally aged miso is more than a soup base. It's a medicinal food that's been used in Japanese healing for centuries. The secret lies in its fermentation. Over weeks and months, soybeans break down and release probiotics, amino acids, and a wealth of minerals, especially magnesium. These components do more than nourish. They regulate digestion, soothe inflammation, and open up circulation. Why does that matter for your legs? Because the gut and blood vessels are deeply connected. When digestion is inflamed, as it often is in older adults, the body goes into defense mode. Blood is pulled away from muscles and sent to the gut to fight perceived threats. That leaves your legs weaker, your steps heavier, and your energy scattered. Miso helps reverse that process. It tells the gut, "You're safe. You can rest now." And in turn, blood flow returns to your muscles. Within hours, many people feel less bloated, more grounded, and even more stable when standing or walking. It's not about stimulation, it's about steadiness. To get the most benefit, choose miso that's unpasteurized, aged for several months, and made from organic soybeans. Avoid instant packets or pasteurized miso diluted with additives. Combine it with tofu, seaweed, mushrooms, or a little brown rice. Serve it warm, not boiling hot, to protect the live probiotics. Add scallions or a piece of kombu for extra minerals. And when's the best time to have it?
Evening, after a long day when the gut needs comfort and the body is preparing to heal. This is when the calming amino acids in miso, like glutamic acid, support the nervous system, reduce stress, and help the whole body exhale. A warm bowl of miso soup at night can be as comforting as a hug from the inside out. Fermented miso isn't just a vegetarian alternative to bone broth. It's a healing tool in its own right. A warm bowl of real miso soup can remind your body you're not in danger. You're supported. You can begin to restore. Whether you're 60, 70, or 85, the body listens to signals like that. And sometimes all it takes is one small, ancient bowl of soup to start feeling strong again. So next time you feel your energy dipping or your legs dragging a little more than usual, remember, strength doesn't always come from effort. Sometimes it begins with listening, quietly, patiently, and responding with care. Miso, in that sense, is more than food. It's a message, one your body just might be waiting to hear. And for those who still wonder whether something as simple as soup can truly shift how you feel, consider this. Comfort food isn't just psychological. When made right, it's physiological. It supports the systems we forget to care for. It calms the parts of us that are constantly on guard. So maybe tonight, instead of chasing energy with caffeine or ignoring that ache in your knees, you try something different. A warm bowl. A quiet moment. A signal that says, you're healing now. So whether you're nourishing your body with bone broth or embracing the gentle strength of fermented miso, the goal remains the same: to support your body's natural ability to heal. But here's the most important part. How do you know it's working? Healing doesn't always arrive with fireworks or headlines. More often, it shows up quietly, in the spaces we tend to overlook. Which brings us to something deeply powerful, yet often forgotten: listening to your body.
How do you know it's working? Not through complicated tests or charts, but in your everyday life. You rise from bed with less hesitation. Your knees don't groan as loudly. Your balance feels a little more dependable. These moments may seem small, but they're signs. Signs that your body is responding. One of the most overlooked skills in aging well is listening, not just to doctors or data, but to your own body. Because when something improves, even slightly, it will try to tell you. Through ease, through comfort, through movement that flows a little more naturally. Recovery isn't just about building muscle or following a strict routine. It's about restoring the relationship between your body and your awareness. It's about noticing, today I stood longer without fatigue. I climbed stairs without holding the rail. I felt safe in my own body. These are the real milestones. They don't show up in charts, but they show up in life. In the smile you have when walking outside. In the sigh of relief when your legs don't tremble getting up. This is your nervous system finally relaxing, your circulation finally improving, your digestion finally cooperating. And what made that possible? Not a miracle drug, not a punishing workout, but a shift, subtle and consistent, in how you nourish and care for yourself. Maybe it was the bone broth in the morning, the miso soup at night, or simply a deeper intention to listen. Because your body is always speaking. It speaks in stiffness and in ease, in energy and in fatigue. And when you give it the right input, nutrients, rest, gentle movement, it speaks back with gratitude. So how do you know you're recovering? You feel it. You feel steadier, lighter, quieter, not just physically,
but emotionally, mentally. You're not gripping every step. You're not bracing for pain. You're moving through the day with more trust. That is the power of listening. That is the power of nourishment. And the beauty is, it doesn't take months. It can begin tonight. One small act, one supportive meal, one mindful breath. And in the morning, your body will answer. Let this be your reminder. Progress is not always loud. It doesn't have to shout. Sometimes it whispers through steadier footsteps, easier mornings, or a sense of calm you didn't notice before. These are not small things, they are everything. And when you notice them, celebrate them. Because every signal of recovery is proof your body hasn't given up on you. So don't give up on it. Not with words, but with movement. Not with numbers, but with ease. And that, my friend, is a sign worth celebrating. And that brings us to a question we don't ask often enough. How do we really know it's working? Not just emotionally, but biologically. Yes, the body sends signals, more ease in the joints, a little less hesitation when you rise from a chair. But can we trust these sensations? Can we support them with facts, not just feelings? Let's take this a step further, because beyond the warmth of tradition and the comfort of rituals, there's another kind of reassurance, the kind that comes from science. Let's explore it now.
By now, you've heard the stories. You've learned how bone broth or a bowl of miso can calm inflammation, restore circulation, and help the body feel strong again. But let's pause and look deeper, not just at tradition, but at what science has to say. Because modern research is finally catching up to what many healing cultures have practiced for centuries. Food isn't just fuel, it's a form of communication. The nutrients we consume send messages to our cells, our organs, even our mood. Especially after 60, these messages matter more than ever. Let's start with something green. Spinach and beets, for example, are rich in dietary nitrates. When digested, they convert into nitric oxide, a natural compound that relaxes and widens blood vessels, improving circulation. Better blood flow means more oxygen to the muscles, which translates to better mobility, faster recovery, and greater endurance. This isn't folklore. It's physiology, backed by peer-reviewed studies. Now think about lentils. These humble legumes are more than just fiber and protein. They're rich in iron, magnesium, and folate, 3 nutrients essential for muscle repair and energy metabolism. Combined with consistent movement and hydration, they help build a foundation for strength, not just in the gym, but in everyday life. And then there's glycine, a key amino acid found abundantly in both bone broth and fermented miso. Glycine plays a critical role in collagen production, detoxification, and even sleep regulation. Clinical trials show that glycine supplementation can reduce joint pain, improve sleep quality, and promote better metabolic health. For older adults, that translates to more energy, better mood, and less stiffness. But here's the most important insight. None of these foods are magic. They're not miracle pills or overnight fixes. They're part of a pattern. Daily choices that signal safety, healing, and vitality. Just like a song isn't made from one note, recovery doesn't come from one action. It's the melody of care, repeated gently over time. In Japan, there's a phrase, ikaru karada, a body that wakes up. Not jolted by stress or driven by fear, but stirred gently by warmth, nourishment, and trust. When we eat with intention, move with kindness, and rest with permission, our bodies respond, not just physically, but emotionally. So if you're wondering when to start, the answer is simple. Now. With your next bite, your next breath, your next choice to believe that the body still remembers how to heal. Because it does. It's listening. And all it needs is your signal. So here we are. After all the insights, stories, and science, what does it come down to? It comes down to this. Muscle loss is not your destiny, and your age is not your limit. What matters most isn't finding shortcuts or miracle cures. It's about small, intentional acts of care, repeated daily, that speak directly to your body and spirit. Because strength isn't just about muscles. It's about movement, about presence, about being able to reach for a glass without hesitation, to take the stairs without fear. It's the quiet confidence of knowing you can carry your own groceries or kneel down to tend your garden. That's real power, and it starts not in the gym, but in your choices, in the way you nourish yourself, the way you listen to your body, and the way you choose to show up every day. If you take away just one thing from this conversation, let it be this: your body is listening. Every bite you take, every time you stretch, every time you rest without guilt, it hears you, and it responds. Maybe not instantly, but steadily, deeply, and faithfully. So ask yourself, what kind of message do you want to send your body today? You don't need to be perfect. You don't need to overhaul your life overnight, but you do need to begin. Start with a broth, or miso, or spinach, or a 10-minute walk. Start with your next meal. Start with your next breath. Because when you tell your body, I still want to live this day well, it listens, and it answers with strength, with steadiness, and with the kind of grace that only comes from living with intention. Now, it's your turn. What's one small shift you're ready to make today just for your body? Drop a comment below and let us know. Is it a morning walk, a cup of bone broth, replacing your evening snack with something that nourishes instead of drains? We'd love to hear your commitment. And if this episode spoke to you, if it gave you hope, insight, or just a moment of stillness, please share it with someone who might need the same reminder. Don't forget to subscribe for more honest, empowering conversations about aging with strength and clarity. Because the journey doesn't end here. It's just beginning, and we're walking it together. See you in the next episode.